We've all heard the word visionary, right? We usually picture these rare, almost mythical figures. But what if being a visionary isn't some gift you're born with, but a skill you can actually learn? Well, today we're going to break down exactly how visionary leaders paint the future, and we're going to turn this whole myth into a practical art. Okay, let's just dive right in with a quote from someone who was often called the ultimate visionary, Steve Jobs. Now, what's so fascinating here is that Jobs doesn't say leadership is about having the best ideas. Nope. He says it's about communication. It's the ability to articulate a vision so clearly that everyone else can see it, feel it, and jump on board. And that, right there, is going to be our core idea.
So first things first, we've got to tackle the big myth that holds so many of us back. This whole idea of the lone genius. We have this really romantic picture in our heads, don't we? Some special person gets struck by a bolt of lightning, and suddenly they can see a new world that no one else can. We put them on a pedestal, thinking their abilities are just way beyond anything we could ever do.
But the reality is actually so much more empowering. A visionary's real power isn't just having the idea, it's making that idea absolutely contagious. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be broken down, understood, and learned.
So let's see how this all works in practice with our first case study, Steve Jobs. He wasn't just a brilliant inventor, he was a master of articulation.
Look, his true genius wasn't necessarily just dreaming up the iPhone in some locked room. It was his ability to stand up on a stage and describe it so compellingly that millions of people felt like they needed one right then and there, before they'd even touched it. He built consensus and massive excitement, all through powerful articulation.
And this is the key. Jobs himself believed that changing the world wasn't something reserved for a special few. This quote is such a powerful reminder that the world we live in is malleable. It was built by people who just decided to build it. It basically democratizes the whole idea of being a visionary.
But, as powerful as changing technology is, there's a whole other level of vision. One that doesn't just change the tools we use, but actually us. So let's pivot for a second, from products to people. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. A product vision, like a new smartphone, well, it changes what we use, but it has a shelf life, right? It's going to be obsolete in a few years. But a societal vision, that changes how we see ourselves, our shared humanity. It's driven by deep values, and its impact can last for generations. So when we start talking about a societal vision, one that truly endures, we have to look beyond the world of gadgets and apps. We have to turn to someone like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose vision didn't just launch a product. It literally reshaped the conscience of a nation.
So how did he do it? How do you paint a dream so vividly that millions of people can see it, can feel it in their bones, and are moved to make it real? Let's dissect the anatomy of that inspiration. Just listen to those words. That is not a corporate mission statement. It's a scene. It's a story. You can almost feel the heat from the red Georgia clay. You can see that table, and you can feel the hope in the air.
Now look at the contrast on this slide. It is just night and day. On the right, you've got this typical corporate-style mission statement. It's accurate, sure, it's direct, and it is completely uninspiring. It describes a goal. But Dr. King's version on the left, it makes you feel the goal. One is just data, and the other is a dream.
So what's the secret sauce? Well, his vision was built from imagery and narrative. He gave us a vivid setting, the red hills of Georgia. He gave us human characters, the sons of former slaves and slave owners. He gave us a clear resolution, sitting down together. And he gave us a powerful emotional core, the table of brotherhood. That's the recipe.
And that really is the ultimate lesson here, isn't it? Statistics are great for describing a problem. They can prove it exists, but they can't inspire people to get up and actually solve it. For that, you absolutely have to connect with their emotions, with their values, with our shared humanity.
Okay, so how does all this feeling, this dream, translate into actual change? Well, it works by creating something that we can call the motivation gap. The motivation gap is simply the space between the world as it is today and the world as it could be. When a leader paints a really clear, emotional picture of that better future, the gap between now and then suddenly feels real. It feels tangible, and frankly, it feels unacceptable to leave it that way. It's really a three-step process. First, you paint the dream.
Then, people start to see the gap between that amazing dream and their current reality. And finally, that gap creates this psychological tension, a deep sense of urgency that fuels the energy we all need to close it. It is literally the engine of change. So, in the end, being a visionary isn't really about seeing the future. It's about helping other people see it with you. It's about articulating a destination so clearly that the path to get there becomes a shared journey. And that leaves all of us with one final question to think about. What future will you help others see?